Hi, I'm JP, and I'm joined by Pop-Up Podcasting producers Will, Lisa, and Richard. Today, we're going to be discussing our origin stories. What brought you all to Pop-Up Podcasting? And next episode, we'll talk about my origin story as the founder of PUP, as we call it. But for now, here's Will, Richard, and Lisa. You all started as interns from the radio and broadcasting program at Algonquin College. And actually, we have our current intern, Emma, in the producer's chair for today's episode 2. Hey, Emma. So let's get right into it. How did you all find Pop-Up Podcasting, and why did you apply for the internship? We can start with Lisa. She was our first.
Oh, me first. Scary. Okay. So I actually, a good friend of mine from the radio program, who you know already, Chris. I don't know how well you guys knew each other. Maybe you had just met at like some kind of marketing thing. And I told him I was looking at podcasting as an option for internship. And he told me about you, and I contacted you, and that is what happened.
Right on. And Richard, what about you next? Now I'm mixing up the order, if that's okay.
I was also in the Algonquin College radio broadcasting program. And I guess at this point you had become, I don't know, like maybe a regular for them. I guess you had done this a few times, and you were one of the companies that they said, JP takes interns now and again, and he's taken some this year. So apply if you want. And I definitely did. It's producing. It's right up my alley. And you didn't pick me.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that a bit later.
What a twist.
Yeah.
What a twist. I love that twist.
And Will, what brought you to the internship?
Yeah, so again, also in the radio broadcasting program, I had no interest in radio broadcasting though. So when JPU came in as a speaker in one of our classes, and I was just like, a local podcasting studio, which was very much, I was sort of using the program as my way into podcasting, because I was like, I don't really know any other way to get into the industry besides like some kind of semi-related education. And so, you came in as a speaker, did a great job. And so, it was, I think, top of the list in terms of where to apply when internship time came around. Because I was like, I don't know, when I was like looking at podcasting, I'm like, I don't know, do I have to like move to New York or something, right? Like it seemed kind of less attainable, especially this was before the pandemic started, right? And sort of opened up the whole remote recording, which I'm sure was happening, but not to the same scale. So I was like, this seems fantastic. And luckily you selected me and went from there.
Yeah, don't rub it in for Richard. So, Lisa, you were my first hire, I think, as we mentioned there, and you actually did 2 internships, one after the other. What was your other one? And tell us a bit about your experience with it.
That was I don't want to say my main one. That was like my thing that I knew absolutely when I came into the program that I wanted to do an internship with CBC because I actually listened to a lot of CBC radio shows, more of like their evergreen kind of stuff. So I had that for sure on my list of I want to be able to do an internship with them. And then other than that, I thought similar to Will, like I listened to a lot of podcasts like This American Life and Death, Sex and Money and like things like that. So I forget the question. What did you ask me?
What was your experience like with so you did a CBC internship with their weekend morning show, I guess?
It was, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on what it was called?
In Town and Out.
In Town and Out. Yeah. With Giacomo Panico. And so that went really well. So I basically would do more of like pre-screening for guests. So I would call up the guest and chat with them about what we were interested in talking about, and kind of sort of fill in sort of a interview sheet for them that would be used. And I also did like an interview as well that was submitted for the show. And I would do some on-location stuff as well. And what else was I doing? And a little bit of editing as well, producing a little bit.
And now that you've experienced the world of podcasting for a few years now, do you have feelings on that kind of traditional radio versus podcasting kind of dynamic? Are there differences that stand out?
Maybe not too much. I mean, other than like now there's not the same kind of gatekeeping that there maybe was years ago. So anyone who wants to, get into podcasting or produce what is kind of similar to a radio show can do that, which is nice because lots of different people have different things to say and talent to bring.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so moving over to Will, you're now our production manager, and you joined us next after Lisa, and you joined us mid start of pandemic, right? So,
Yep.
So what was that like?
Yeah, it was a strange time. So yeah, the pandemic cut off my internship. I'm trying to kind of get the timeline right. So we had to shut down the studio. That was sort of a whole other story. And then I think a couple weeks later or something, JP, you gave me a call, and the sort of remote business had started to pick up, and offered me the position, which was again like sort of a bit of a lifesaver at the moment, right? Because there's so much uncertainty at the time and everything. Like just doing kind of school busy work to complete the hours for the internship, and you're thinking about how to even go out and look for a job right now. So yeah, that was I was very thankful for that, and then just started up working from home, trying to. I mean, which is a whole other thing, right? Because luckily I had the internship to sort of get to know the company a little bit beforehand, but like starting up a new job in a new industry, working from home is like, it can be a little unnerving, right? Because I'm like, you're still explaining everything, but it's over Zoom and everything like that. So there's that little bit more of a disconnection. But yeah, no, it was great. Sort of tucked away in my room, working away on podcasts. It was an interesting time for sure.
Yeah, and I remember you were a lifesaver there because Lisa and I had been in the studio with a potential COVID exposure. You without I think like a car or a wagon or anything, just like carried Lisa's computer or a desktop computer over to Lisa's house so that she could continue working. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
I've
again,
told the whole story there.
Yeah, it speaks to sort of the strange times, right, that we were in, where it was like, you two were like, I don't think we can leave our homes right now. And I was like, I think I still can. So yeah, show up at the studio. I think I put things in a box or something maybe. And then, just like left it outside Lisa's door and like couldn't even see her, had to like run away before she could open the door to get it. So yeah, I mean, very strange, but it was sort of everybody just getting used to the new normal a little bit, right, at the time.
Yeah, and like our producers, you guys all have company laptops at home now and stuff, but we had two desktop computers at the studio, and you brought one to Lisa. My friend Josh picked up the other one, brought it to my house. So yeah, it's the company's in a very different place now than it was in those early days.
That's true. Yeah, it's weird to think of us not having like even like home setups and stuff. Yeah, because it's very much what we do like every day now. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. Lisa,
I was going to say, JP, in case it matters to you, I can hear crying in the background on your end. If it matters for like people listening or for clipping stuff out, I just want to let you know.
Yeah. That's the sound of me ignoring my baby crying in the background. If anybody's wondering.
Just we should at least draw attention to it. If we're going to let it go, let's just tell people what it is.
My lovely wife, Erica, is taking care of the crying baby. So she's not being ignored, but no, fair enough. And Richard, you're the most recent hire, been with us for about a year now, a little over a year, maybe.
You're more now, year and a half, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Cause it'll be 2 years in March, I guess.
Wow.
But, we alluded to this earlier, but, you were not selected as an intern. So I want to tell the folks, how you came to be an employee here.
Yeah, I had an interview and it went well, but I know multiple people were interviewing, and there were a lot of talented people up for the position. So you ended up going with someone else, which was totally fine. I ended up with a former client of yours, I believe. I ended up on a podcast called Beyond the Bake Sale, which was a fun experience. And I started doing that, and maybe, I don't know how long in, maybe a month in, I think I got maybe a month or a half in, I got an email from you asking if I was available for some freelance work to do some editing. And I love freelance editing work, so I said, yeah, absolutely. We had a quick briefing, and it was a doozy of a project.
I was going to say, you may not have said yes if you'd known the nature of the work.
big project. It probably still is the biggest project I've ever done for the company, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But it went great. I didn't know coming in if all of the work was going to be that intense. But I mean, I was ready either way. And you were kind of like adamant about like, this is a little bit more involved than what is usually required.
Yeah.
But it was fun and it was interesting and I enjoyed it. I think,
I kind of felt bad because I was like, you were very like gung ho to get going, but I was like, oh, this new guy, and I'm sending him all this like kind of like, honestly, like we try to avoid bad audio, but a lot of it was bad audio, and I should give some context there because it wasn't our fault. But we were doing an online conference, and it was bilingual. One of the reasons I needed extra help with that was because Richard is bilingual, speaks French. So we brought him on for this online conference that was happening, where we had interpreters in a different studio, not our studio, who were doing real-time language interpretation. And then the client wanted to turn those into podcasts. So we'd have a presentation, or a couple hours, I guess, with several presentations, some in English, some in French, and then the interpreters were in real time saying the opposite language, so that we'd have, and then we recorded that, and we'd have all that. But like I don't know if it's just like real time language interpretation seems like a really hard thing to do, but maybe also those people were stretched pretty thin because of the pandemic. But like the output we were getting, we were having technical problems, I think, with the other studio where there was stuff being cut out because of like internet connection stuff. And then we also had these interpreters who were like not being able to keep up and skipping important parts. And so when you edit together this, well, you tell a little more about what that ended up sounding like.
Well, it was crazy because I think we had to do a couple versions every time. So I think we needed just like the regular floor version, and that everybody was speaking the language in, and then the French version, and then the English version. Right. So it was like 3 versions per episode. So it was like triple the edit per episode. But then at the same time, it's like you said, the translators were probably stretched very thin. There were, if I remember correctly, there were 2 of them. Right. And it's weird because it doesn't matter if a man or a woman is speaking. It's just the translator. So you don't really have a context as to who's speaking, even if it changes voice. Like if the host is talking and then a guest is talking, it's the same translator. So, right. and they don't give you like an audio cue, like, oh, okay, now speaker is talking. No, it's just the same person that's talking. So you're not really sure when it transitions from question to answer sometimes. And they have to go really quick because they're trying to catch up to everything. Yeah. So sometimes it's just not seamless at all. Yeah. And then I guess translators also have this thing where if you work, I think it's every 15 or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
They switch out. So you'll be in the middle of an answer. You'll be in the middle of translating, and then it'll switch voices. And in our case, it was a man and a woman. So it was 2 completely different voices. And it'll be in the middle of a sentence of the same speaker. And you have no idea what's going on. Even me, while editing, I was like, wait, is this the same like, what's happening? Yeah. And then you'll get the times where they can't tell what the original speaker is saying. So the translator will literally just sit, translator cannot understand. Translator cannot understand. And then you just have to kind of edit that in and hope that the audience can understand that they don't hear it. So it was and like messy. You said, they were long episodes. They weren't like short 15-minute. No, they were long, full hour plus conferences. So it took a long time to do, and it was kind of a headache, but it got me prepared. It got me ready, and I was using a new software too. Right. So it got me very much familiar with that software. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a challenging project to get started on, and I felt for you on that, because I think the worst thing for us as producers is when the the finished product is not great, and it's not great, and there's nothing you can do about it. So we no longer. I didn't recommend it in the first place. This was just the client wanted it, but I would probably refuse to do another recording live translated thing again, because it just didn't work.
It's tough
as far as creating an on-demand product for later. It wasn't effective, I don't think. So we have other things we recommend now for bilingual podcasts that will work better. Okay, so that was kind of your trial by fire, getting into the company. Going back a little bit further for everyone, before we met, what brought you to the radio and broadcasting course at Algonquin in the first place? Why did you get interested in this field, and why did you choose podcasting over radio, since the course you took was called the radio broadcasting course? So curious about that. What led you to that field? Maybe we can start with Will. We haven't heard from him in a while.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I touched on it a little bit and sort of my path to the internship and everything like that. But it was, I consumed a lot of podcasts, and I had for years up until that point, starting with like some sports ones I listened to, like when I just like graduated high school and stuff like that. Also liked audiobooks and everything. So I was sort of like, I had done like a sort of like career refocusing kind of not training, but you know what I mean? And it kind of pointed me in one of those directions. So I was like, sure, I applied to a couple different programs. It was one that I got accepted to, and I did a little research, and it had a pretty good reputation, the broadcasting program at Algonquin. So I thought, why not give it a shot? It's a 2-year program as well. So it's relatively quick. It's less of a commitment than some other things as far as post-secondary goes. It was a pretty easy choice for me. And I sort of knew going into it that the sort of radio versus podcasting split, like I said, I knew I wanted to end up at podcasting, and the radio side was more of a means to an end, I guess. And sort of probably reflected in my interest level in some of the different courses as well too, right? Whereas like production and stuff, I would have been much more interested in current affairs, things like that. Whereas like, we had courses on just like the history of radio broadcasting, and I would say I was probably less attentive in those maybe.
Yeah, and they've changed, or they're in the process of changing the name of the course to include podcasting and new media, I think. So
yeah, really cool. Hearing some of the changes where they're incorporating like some photography and video work and stuff like that. Things that I'm like, I very much wish that I had at the time, because it would have just set us up even better for jumping into the sort of podcasting media space. So it's exciting to hear that they've made some of those changes.
Yeah. Well, I think we all know that our jobs go beyond audio. We're doing, social videos for clients. We're doing video podcasts, stuff like that. So it's, we have to be jacks of all trades in some ways. Lisa, what about you? What brought you to the Algonquin radio course?
Well, at the time, I had been working for a while in jobs that were fine, but things that I wasn't necessarily passionate about. And I had not gone to college after high school because I had my kids young. So I wanted to go back to school to kind of prove to myself that I could do it, and also see about having more of a job or career that was in line with what I felt my skill sets were. And growing up, I was always pretty effortlessly good at anything more kind of artistic or anything that used creativity. So I went through and kind of just looked to see what was available at Algonquin, since I would have to stay taking a program in Ottawa because my kids are here. And I looked at a bunch of different things, and just any time that I kind of settled on something that wasn't creative, I felt like I was giving up on life, essentially. So I'm like, I have to do something creative, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did a 1-year media communications program. And then that program kind of opened the students in that program up to the possibilities from there, which were like television broadcast, public relations, radio broadcasting, that kind of stuff. And I did a program. So we did an assignment like later in that program that introduced us to the radio program, like working with a student there, just like some of us actually did when we were in that program. We kind of helped other students, and I loved it. Like I liked doing every part of it, like the voiceover stuff, choosing music, just all the creativity of it. I loved. So that's what led me into the program.
Right on. And kind of like Lisa, Richard, you started in a different program at Algonquin, and then went into radio broadcasting. Tell us about that path.
Yeah, my road to the radio broadcasting program is a little different. Like Lisa, I didn't go to post-secondary right after high school. I've been in the music industry for over 15 years now, so I've been doing that, and I was doing that for a long time. I had a band that is technically still together, but not that was successful, and we were recording with many people, and I was doing my thing there. And then I got to a point where I wanted to go back to post-secondary, so I decided to try something a little different. I went to advertising and marketing, business management, communications, and I liked it. I spent a year there. It was fun. I ended up becoming a copywriter for the school's agency during my second year, but I quickly realized it just wasn't for me. The industry wasn't really for me, so I took a step back and I took like a couple months off, and then a lot of people that I knew had gone through the Algonquin radio broadcasting program, and they loved it and they spoke highly of it. So I decided to take a look. It seemed fun. It seemed like it was right up my alley, considering I love music. I love being creative. I love producing. I love editing, all that stuff. So I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. And I thought it was like more than anything, it was going to open some doors for me. And when I got in, everyone was right. It was a great program. The ambiance from advertising and marketing to radio broadcasting is so wildly different. The radio broadcasting felt so much closer, and like the students were just kind of like friendlier with each other, and that was nice. It was a nice thing to step into. And I didn't know, like, kind of, I think Will mentioned this, I didn't know that podcasting was around locally like this. And when I saw the opportunity for Pop-Up, I was like, wow, this is an interesting way for me to get some production work without having to leave Ottawa. I love Ottawa. And I didn't know that was a thing. So when Pop-Up was like, yeah, we produce podcasts and we hire producers, I was like, that's amazing. And I jumped all over it as soon as I could.
Nice. Yeah, well, it's funny in a way. I mean, we've all been podcast fans before we, started working on podcasts. But this is a weird job, right? Like we don't like it. Podcast producer didn't exist as a job.
It's a cool job.
Well,
it is. It's a cool job.
I'm glad you like it. I think it's pretty cool too. A little bit biased group here, but yeah, it's different because we're not doing something that we could have thought about when we were like kids, right? It's not firefighter. It's not, dentist or whatever. So it's interesting to see you guys and to also know other people in the industry that it attracts people who I think want to be here and have interesting, unique paths. So, thanks for sharing a bit about yours here today. Curious, because it is this like unconventional career path in some ways still, for each of you, and maybe we can start with Lisa, why did you decide to come on board when I said, hey, I'd like to keep working with you after the internship?
Yeah, you were a huge part of that, honestly, JP. You're a very easy person to work with and a great person to work for. And so I found as I was learning stuff, because it was different, like what I was doing in school, we were using different software at the studio, and working in a small space, obviously. So like you have to like who you're working with. Right. And I just remember like when I started working, I'm trying to remember if I started working with any clients by myself during the internship or if that came later. But yeah, I just felt like as I was learning things, you're very helpful. You explained things to me in a way that like made sense. You had a lot of patience, and were very kind of open to being flexible about like, what did I want to learn? What did I want to do while I was there with my time? I had started working on my own podcast, and you were helping me with that. So when you invited me to come on board, I figured it would be a chance of kind of doing more of the same, working with someone who I already knew that I enjoyed and felt comfortable working with. And then I started doing obviously like my own recording sessions and everything. And that continued where, you know, if I was nervous about something or my first time working with a client by myself at the studio, you were like, it's not brain surgery. Like, obviously we want to do a good job. We want to give people a good product, but also don't like drive yourself nuts and stress out about it too much. So yeah.
Well, thanks for saying those nice things, and I want to thank Emma for putting this question in in my show notes here, because it makes me feel good to hear those answers. Will, no pressure to heap praise on me, but sure. Take it wherever you want to take it. But what made you decide to stick around and to carry on working with me?
Yeah, well, as Lisa said, it definitely starts from the top. And honestly, with both of you were on at the time, and we haven't mentioned it, but Lisa was also my second year mentor when we were in school as well. Yay. So yeah, I had a pre-existing relationship of her being able to show me the ropes and everything like that. So yeah, I was like,
and hopefully I wasn't a jerk then. So
no, absolutely not. And so I enjoyed working with both of you. I mean, again, it was someone offering you a job that you can do from home in the middle of a pandemic. It was pretty hard to say. It would have been very odd for me to pass that up. And I had quit a job during the internship because I wasn't going to be able to do both as well too. So I kind of felt like, if they're now offering me a job, the place I decided to do an internship with, I kind of had to do it. Not that I also didn't want to, but it was sort of like a perfect storm of like current global climate, really liking the work environment, and then like it fitting exactly kind of where I want to go career wise.
Right on. Well, thank you as well for saying nice things. Richard, last one up.
I'm just gonna say many mean things.
Oh no.
I mean, first of all, can I just ask you why you didn't pick me?
Well, I didn't like you, so
yeah.
I
get that.
I probably have notes from interviews and stuff. I mean, you were a strong second at least, because
I was just curious.
Kept you on.
He wanted another woman on the team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Might have been. Yeah, because there was a female intern at that point, but I think maybe she had like more. Or we at least talked about in the interview more like graphic design and social media.
Oh yeah,
social media experience, and I was looking for that at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
As far as the offer, I mean, it was awesome to get an email from you and see that you had kept me in mind and you were still interested in working with me. At this point, it was as a freelancer, so I was very interested right off the bat, and when I hadn't met Will or Lisa, and not until I officially came on, until after the freelance project. But when you and I met during the freelance project, you were super easygoing and you were helpful and you were kind of like really understanding that like, hey, this is tough and it kind of sucks, but thanks for doing it. And you were really nice. And after I was done that project, you pretty quickly offered me a spot at the company, and it would have been weird for me not to take it because it kind of gives me everything that I wanted. I turned down a few big time radio producer gigs, but they would have had me move, one of them was in Toronto and one of them was in BC, and I didn't really want to move. And this is also a job where I get to do a little bit more of what I like, which is editing, and specifically vocal editing. That's kind of been my thing for so long that I got to keep doing that. And from what I could tell, and I was right, you were a good dude, so that was awesome. And then as soon as I met the team, Will and Lisa, I was like, oh, this is great. Like, it just feels like a little, like everyone's gets along really well, and it doesn't feel like stressful, and I don't get like anxiety coming to staff meetings or work or anything like that. So it's like, okay, great. Yeah, this makes total sense for me. So yeah, I mean,
nice.
no brainer.
Nice. We try to keep it a low anxiety zone, or I just gobble up all the anxiety and shove it down inside me. Only sort of joking. But I don't know. I'm just a nervous type in some ways. But no, I mean, to turn the tables a little bit, you guys have all been so easy to work with. It's been such a joy, and it relieves my anxiety to know that our clients and the work are in good hands in the studio and everything else. So, yeah. Let's maybe end the love fest there. Don't want to just bathe in this warm. I got to stop talking. All right. Thanks so much for listening to Pop-Up Podcasting. Stay tuned next episode to hear how the company started and what made it what it is today.
Produced at Pop-Up Podcasting.